After the second largest bank failure in US history, this is how the government is responding. Per Bloomberg, you can see that the FDIC auction for SVB is said to be underway. I'm Gav Blacksberg, aka Wolf Financial. I'm here with Evan from Stock Market News. If you like these type of videos, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, like this video. We're going to get into some really important details that are going to massively affect the US economy, not just this week, but for many in the future. Let's dive into it. Evan, what's standing out to you off the bat here?
Yeah, this is going to be a very swift response. A lot of people were talking that they have to have a response by Monday, and it looks like they are aiming for Sunday night. Now, this has been on the screen for a minute or so, so I'm sure you guys have read this already. But the FDIC is kicking off the auction process. Started apparently last night and should be concluding today. The bids should be in very soon, and we might be hearing it later tonight, probably Monday. I always like to give them that leeway. But yeah, this one is pretty interesting for me. If you go over to the next slide, they're also expected to make material announcements to shore up Silicon Valley Bank deposits and prevent wider fallout. And if you go to the next slide, they've kind of also hinted out what we should be expected to see, that they are weighing creating a fund that would allow regulators to backstop more deposits at banks that run into trouble following Silicon Valley's bank's collapse. So outside of SVB. So interesting to see. We kind of, this is what I would expect to hear. I would give them some leeway into Monday, but I feel like it's top priority to get a note out really quickly. Is there anything that kind of stood out to you with the first couple stuff and what's been happening?
Yeah, the government has to put out a response to this. Otherwise, we're going to see a massive bank run on regional banks when they open up on Monday, right? We already saw lines out the door, First Republic and others over the weekend, but that's just the start of this. What's happening here is a severe distrust in regional banking systems and a consolidation into the massive banks, which, puts a lot of smaller businesses at distress, right? And a number of other pieces. So the government has to come in here and figure out a way to reassure the public that money is safe in regional banks, that this is a one time occurrence, and that there's going to be a rescue plan of some sort. Doesn't necessarily have to be a bailout. As we can see, there's an auction going on, but something has to happen because there's 65,000 small companies and startups that are relying upon it. We could
I
pop.
do also I do also quickly think on that it would be really interesting to see on Monday, like what people do at their banks. Is there a fight from regional banks? Will there kind of be any second and tertiary, that's the real word, kind of reaction to this, even if it does get stopped? It definitely could not be, and maybe this has just kind of stemmed it pretty quickly. They're reacting quickly, but I'm definitely fascinated to watch that. But looking at this thing, I think that this is just eternally funny that the Fed, they speak every single day. Fed presidents speak more than they should, and then the one time that like it makes a lot of sense for them to be talking a lot, they are in a blackout window, cannot speak at all ahead of the FOMC meeting. It's just crazy how that works.
Yeah, pretty nuts. I hope that we still get to hear some sort of thoughts, but yeah, they're not going to be publicly speaking. So as you can see here, you can see the Fed blackout period. So even though we won't have the Fed speaking, I think you can be sure that there is going to be volatility in the market this week. Popping over here to the next slide, we're going to take a look at a little bit of this economic calendar. On Tuesday, story of the week, CPI. As you were kind of joking with me, this is the least hyped CPI print of probably the last 16 or so months, right?
100%. Everyone is focused on Silicon Valley Bank. I've heard no one really talking about CPI, but the median forecast is for it to come in at plus 6.1% year over year. The previous number is 6.4%. It's definitely on watch. Tinfoil hat on. What do you think we get, Wolf?
Wow, it's a good question. I know that you were saying the 6.1% seemed low to you, right? Yeah,
Don't
I
give away my guess.
oh, okay. All right, I'll go 6.3. I kind of like that number.
All right, I'll go 6.2.
Sounds like a plan. Walking through a little bit of other inflation numbers, you can just see from top down,
Yeah.
inflation has been coming down since we peaked back in June. So anything under a 6.4 would continue that trend. I believe that we are going to get a number lower than that. Inflation is obviously a lagging indicator, but there's reason to believe that it's continuing to come down. Hopping into the latter part of the week, starting with Wednesday, we've got a bunch of information coming out, PPI, some other pieces. Anything else standing out to you here?
Yeah, retail sales being pretty important as well. And then if I look over to the next day, we have jobless claims coming out on Thursday, which has been getting a lot of attention recently. So that's another one I'll be watching too.
Yeah, jobless claims seems to be swinging the Fed's decision on a weekly basis as we either come in stronger or lower, and people make assumptions based off that. Hopefully, the Fed is weighing a little bit of a larger data set as they make their decisions around these FOMC meetings. Of course, with everything that just happened with SVB, we have to talk about, is there going to be a 25-point basis hike, a 50-point basis hike? A 50-point basis hike could put a lot of stress on an already fragile system. So let's see if they take that into effect. And of course, rounding out the week, we don't have any massive earnings, but we do have plenty of companies that are still reporting. Anything standing out to you here, Evan?
Yeah, so Adobe and FedEx are definitely the largest two. We kind of talked about this. That's not the real Meta. That's not Facebook. I don't know what that is, but FedEx and Adobe are two names that are large. We talked about this earlier. FedEx does kind of move some stuff. Talked about logistics. I feel like it directly impacts UPS and maybe Amazon a little bit too. So that's definitely an interesting one. And then also XPeng gets a little bit of love. And let's see if there's, I'm just going to go around one other some random ones. Oatly might be a little interesting one. BuzzFeed, but I'm really reaching at this point. Really, FedEx and Adobe are the two in there.
Yeah, so FedEx and Adobe certainly the biggest. With FedEx, I don't necessarily pay so much attention to the numbers on a weekly basis, but what I do know is that people look at FedEx as a determination of where the supply chain is currently standing inside the US. So, are they really getting their packages delivered? Are they effectively moving things? Do they have a lot of backed up inventory? So that's something that does get looked at. Other names on here like GitLab and Skills are a little bit more shot in the dark. Xpeng, these are things that do get traded on Twitter
You know,
Space. And
Dollar
other
Dollar
places.
General a little too.
Do you see people
I did see
trading
that
dollars?
one there. DG or something. That's kind of the sector, those like Five Below or whatever. And there's a couple stores in the one that I could actually affect a little bit.
It's always kind of cool when, and I'll just kind of give a minute on this, when you're looking through these earnings and you kind of find out some of these companies that you didn't even know were publicly traded. Like, did you know that Getty Images was publicly traded?
No, I don't think I did.
Right? That's
Let's
kind of
see.
like,
Feels like a SPAC, either a SPAC or it's been live forever.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of a funny one, right? I just see them when you go and you look up a picture on something. So you see something like Getty Images, Five Below that's on here, right? A number of other Black Rifle Coffee. I know that they're a popular one among some audiences.
Yeah.
So there's,
Ooh. By the way, Getty Images was a SPAC.
there you go. Getty Images, a SPAC. BuzzFeed, another SPAC, right?
Feels like it.
You think they're going to announce that they're now paying for ChatGPT Pro, and that'll give another 30% stock bump?
I feel like they might change their name to BuzzFeed AI. We'll see.
BuzzFeed AI coming your way. So I have one last like topic question that I want to just talk with you here before we do in the video, which is obviously for those that are unfamiliar, stock market news is in the thick of things when it comes to news. Just started a new breaking news channel on Instagram as well. So if you're following him on there, maybe you have the opportunity to check out his channel there. But I'm kind of curious how you read this whole situation that's been breaking with SVB, having been in the thick of it with the news, with the knowledge. Where does this stand on kind of the scale of massive events that have happened within the US banking system, in your opinion? And how much potential fallout do you see coming from it?
I think this goes to my underlying personality. I don't. I think one. I think we have to really answer that question in a little bit and see the fallout. I don't think it's as big as it is being hyped out to be in this moment. I think there is chances that it could have been really big if they had let it full on go, but the government seems to go into that response. So the real fallout might not be that huge. I think there's a chance this just goes down as a business history textbook thing that people just talk about every once in a while, but isn't the craziest of things. I think it might change a lot of stuff in the industry, and people who kind of us and people who really kind of are living it might really see it every day, and just the changes it has on how some of the stuff is backed and protected, and maybe we change FDIC and stuff like that. So this might be the reason for stuff, but I just don't think the impact from it is going to be really that huge. I think that like this is a small subset. I guess companies are important, and maybe they might shift and think about more how they bank. But the average person uh, probably doesn't have too much more than 250K. And if you do, open up a couple bank accounts. Be honest. Open up 80, 90 bank accounts, whatever he has. Um, I don't know. I just don't think it's the biggest thing. It might cause some changes, but I don't think this is going to be the craziest things. We'll see. What do
Well,
you think?
Well, I'm. I'm still on the fence. The thing that really stands out to me is 60,000 plus startups that can't make payroll, and a number of other pieces. So that gets really iffy. As
But it sounds like they're going to be able to make payroll on Monday.
right, well, we'll see. Right, it's an
We'll see.
evolving situation. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. But what I do know is everybody should be subscribing to this channel because regardless of what does happen, we will be here documenting it in front of the audience for free. So make sure that you are checking out everything that we're doing. I think that's everything for the video. Anything else you want to add before we close out, Evan?
We are going to be filming one video every single day this week. I only just mentioned that to him before, so this is a little peer pressure. Tweet that at Wolf. Do whatever. We're going to be filming a video one day every single week, every single day this week. Something different. We'll probably be talking about CPI on one of the days. Maybe tomorrow go a little bit more in depth, or maybe after talking about the response, a little bit PPI and maybe some other stuff going on. But we appreciate everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk later.
Awesome. Talk to you all then.